Offer valid on standard browsers. U.S. only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, I gotta check that out. I mean, I'm getting older, sure, but I don't feel like I'm done with, the fun parts of life, like connection and desire, excitement. You don't really find those things at the grocery store or the doctor's office, so I went online. Date My Age made dating an adventure. It gave me a chance to feel like a teenager again. The thrill of seeing someone new and saying, wow. I could send a spicy gift, start a video chat, or just message my compliments to a beautiful woman.
Whether you love, or just like to look, the fun is waiting for you at Date My Age.
Sure, I was skeptical, but Date My Age is safe, secure, and fun.
Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Almost half the work week in the rearview mirror for me. We'll be out of here on Friday, long weekend for Memorial Day, and then locking in next Tuesday for a regional. That'll certainly be in Baton Rouge. The question is, are we sure that a super regional is going to be in Baton Rouge? And that question was asked to Jay Johnson today. In fact, about 37 minutes ago. When Jay Johnson is being quoted, I'm reading from Reed Darcy's Twitter profile. I don't have a doubt in my mind we're a top 8 seed. We've earned it. Now, Jay Johnson can be talking completely truthfully in saying that. He can be sending a message to the committee by saying that. And Jay Johnson's opinion is not really worth a whole lot. Neither is mine, for that matter. It's whatever the committee thinks. But Jay Johnson's feeling on his team's positioning certainly impacts the way he's going to coach in this tournament. Now, this is the first single elimination tournament that LSU's played in for the entirety of it. Now, LSU certainly played on Tuesday before, where you have to win and stay in, and they needed to do that last year. Gage Jump went out there and threw the ball great. But the stakes are a little bit different in the SEC tournament this time around. Now, I mentioned this on yesterday's show, and I stand by this. I fully do not expect Jay Johnson to do this. But this would be what I would do if I was the head coach. On Friday night, I would start Cade Anderson in the game, and he would have a pretty firm pitch count around 45 or 50. And at the point that he threw his 50th pitch, whether that ended an inning or was the second pitch to somebody, and it was a 1-0 count, and I don't care what the score is, I would throw Anthony Ianson in there. I would let Ianson do his entire pre-start routine thing, get ready to go, get loose, and when Anderson hit that 50th pitch, boom, Ianson would go, and he would throw 50. And both of those guys would throw 50 pitches on Friday. They would hit the ice, and they'd be done until next week. And what that would do is set both of them up on equal rest for Friday's regional game at the box against a 4 seed. And you can pitch whichever one you'd like. Maybe there's a 2 seed in your regional that's loaded with powerful left-handed bats, and you don't want Cade Anderson, right-handed bats, and you don't want Cade Anderson facing them. You'd rather Ianson throw them. So you throw Anderson on Friday. Maybe you've got a team that's just got big-time lefties, and you want Cade Anderson and that breaking ball facing those guys. So you throw Ianson on Friday. Because I don't think you only approach Friday for Friday. I think you do early in the week approach the regional as a whole and then go with the plan of attack. Plan rarely goes perfectly. Really the easiest regional I've seen LSU work through was 23. They really cruised outside of the rain delay that forced Ty Floyd to come out and Thatcher Hurd to pitch a long time. But they handled their business in that regional very well. So that's what I would do to set things up. I don't know how Jay Johnson would feel about the rest factor should Anthony Ianson not pitch on Friday and you lose. Do you just get him a real lengthy bullpen on Saturday, or do you give him some rest? Like, that's a little bit beyond my scope of I use this word with huge air quotes, expertise. Like, I'm not a pitching coach. I'm not an orthopedic doctor. I don't know exactly what these guys' throwing regimens are. I can certainly work off of days of rest, but it's tough for me if LSU only plays one game this week. And Anderson, I mean, we have one thing to go back on with Jay, and that's in 2023, Skeens pitched the first game, and he threw 88 pitches. He wasn't his best. Arkansas got some hits off of him, and LSU ended up losing that game. But LSU had another game to play because it was double elimination. In single elimination, like, how important is it to get Anderson and Ianson mound time in an actual competitive environment? I don't know. But I think if that is important and rest is important, and then, keeping that pitch count down a little bit, I'd like to throw them both in one game. And then whatever you got to do the rest of the weekend, you do the rest of the weekend. You want to start Shores. You want to give Connor Ware another shot. You want to start Newt and see what you can get out of him. You're trying to audition somebody on Saturday for a potential Sunday game in the regional if you win the first two to win it, and you want to give a look to that. Do you fear the fact that if you do lose the first game, you don't have another game and you haven't gotten enough guys work? Like, there are a lot of different things in terms of handling the pitching staff. From a position player perspective, I think this is great. LSU kind of gets a week off. It's a pretty light travel. You're going to hop on the bus on Wednesday, take the probably 7-hour trip up to Hoover on the big bus, and get off and you hang out in a hotel for a day, and then you play Friday evening. So that's not a strenuous travel deal. Whenever you come back, you come back on the big bus. The position players, I think, are going to be well rested and ready to go. This is purely about setting up your pitching staff and how you want to handle that. And we just this is a new format, and LSU's always in a different situation as far as the resume when you get to Hoover. But the only thing we have to go off of from Jay is his saying, I don't have a doubt in my mind that we're a top 8 seed. We've earned it. So I've given my thoughts on it. We'll see what Jay Johnson decides to do. My sincere hope with this SEC tournament for LSU is that you play 2 games. I want them to win Friday, lose Saturday, and go home. And I was saying that all week last year. After they won those first 2 games and you had gotten as hot as you did, and you'd gotten to 13 wins, and then you'd won 2 more, it was obvious based on the RPI, the quad 1 wins, everything, you were in the field. You had done enough. You had swept Ole Miss in the finale. You got to Hoover. You won 2 games. You're fine. And then I was ready for them to lose, and they kept winning. They had to walk off against South Carolina, and this is not – you can't immediately connect these dots. It was purely bad luck. But LSU playing as much as it did get Christian Little into the game, and he got hurt. And you didn't have him in Chapel Hill, and you kind of came up one arm short. Now, maybe you could say you didn't come up one arm short because you got Gage jump into the game at the end, and he had a chance to close it to get the outs, and he didn't get there. So maybe you wouldn't say that you came up an arm short. But I could make the case you came up an arm short. And he got hurt playing games that I didn't really want him to play in Hoover. And that may make me non-competitive and a loser. And if they keep scoring, the scoreboard's on, you got to go out there and win. I'm not real concerned with the SEC baseball tournament. I love the week. I love the entertainment value of it. I love the fact that I flipped on the game earlier today, and at 9:30 they're playing baseball. I love the fact that after my kids go down tonight, I can turn on a baseball game. Like, that's awesome. But as far as the actual consequences of the results, I'm just worried about next week. So I'd like to use this as a tune-up for next week. Get your 2 starters, some work on Friday, piece the rest of it together. Don't overwork anybody. Don't overtax anybody. Certainly nobody needs to throw twice this weekend. And if I had it my way, LSU would play on Friday, come back and play on Saturday, and hit the bus and come on home. Watch the selection show on Monday, lock in on a home regional. We'll find out. Jay will talk one more time before LSU plays. And then most importantly, you will see what he does. This is kind of a Shea Dixon recruiting thing. Watch what they do, not what they say. And if Jay Johnson goes out there and throws Cade Anderson for 114 pitches on Friday, that to me would indicate he thinks they still need to win a game. If he does something completely out of character, that to me would suggest like starting, like pitching both pitchers in one game or pulling Kate Anderson after 50 or something like that, then that would indicate he feels like they're in good shape. We won't know that until Friday night, and I'll be long gone from this week of radio. But it's fascinating. It's something to talk about. And at this point in the week, I'll give my thoughts on it. As the games continue to be played, specifically starting tomorrow night, Wednesday night, there are a couple games that could impact LSU. I'm going to look at the ACC tournament. What's Florida State doing? I'm going to look at the Big Ten tournament. What's Oregon doing? I'm going to look at Hawaii ridiculously to see what they do, because they are a big, big piece to Oregon State's resume. And as some of those things start happening, the situation could change. And I know this about Jay Johnson. No stone left unturned. I'm confident he's, one, looking at some of this stuff, and two, I'm confident, I don't know this, I'm confident, though, that he knows some people on that committee, and I bet you he gets some information. Not like, here's where you are, but like in terms of how they feel about where he stands. And that's part of his job, to communicate to people and figure things out as things move this week. Lots and lots and lots of moving pieces around this chessboard as far as resume goes. Jay Johnson says he thinks they're locked in. 99.9% of you think they're locked in. I think they're 95% locked in. But I'll continue to monitor it, and then we'll see what Jay Johnson decides to actually do with his pitching staff when we get to Friday evening. Right now, Oklahoma's got a 3-1 lead on Kentucky. They're playing in the bottom of the fourth inning. Big game for the Kentucky Wildcats as they try to secure a spot in the field. They're right there on the bubble at this point, but they trail by 2 to Oklahoma right now. Loser obviously heads home. Missouri was the first team eliminated earlier this morning. All right, let's move aside. We'll go to Glen West, 24/7 Sports next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. 3 years. Complimentary valet maintenance. Love to see it. One of the things you really don't love is sitting on the service aisle all morning. You go in, they got to get to your car, they give you the estimate, now they got to fix it. Is the part there or not? Now we're watching Price is Right, half the morning shot. Like, that's not a great experience. That's not going to happen to you at Genesis of Baton Rouge because they offer valet maintenance. So you don't even have to go to the service aisle if you don't want to. It's a great place to sit down. The ambiance is great. Internet's awesome. Coffee bar's fantastic. They got snacks for you. And it's really, really clean. You can get some work done there if you'd like to. But if you'd like to just stay at work or stay at home and have them come get your car, bring it to the dealership, get the service work done, and bring it back, for 3 years, that's complimentary. It's all part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. If you've never gotten behind the wheel of a Genesis, just give it a shot. They're on Airline at Piku, across from Women's Hospital. You can start your buying process today at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
Offer valid on standard browsers, U.S. only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, I gotta check that out. I mean, I'm getting older, sure, but I don't feel like I'm done with, the fun parts of life, like connection and desire, excitement. You don't really find those things at the grocery store or the doctor's office, so I went online. Date My Age made dating an adventure. It gave me a chance to feel like a teenager again. The thrill of seeing someone new and saying, wow. I could send a spicy gift, start a video chat, or just message my compliments to a beautiful woman.
Whether you love, or just like to look, the fun is waiting for you at Date My Age.
Sure, I was skeptical, but Date My Age is safe, secure, and fun.
Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Always invite you to head over to LouisianaSports.net. Got all your Louisiana sports coverage, and it's all there for free. Got a story up right now called Statistically Speaking. Did a pretty deep dive into LSU's baseball statistics in SEC play. got our guy Ross Jackson is all over the New Orleans Saints, going through a feature talking about the different veterans on the New Orleans Saints roster and where they may fit in on this next team. Also got a resume review up talking about LSU's projection as potential top 8 national seed. Curtis Givens from the LSU basketball team has committed to Memphis. Got a story up on that as well. So lots going on over there at LouisianaSports.net. Glen West, good enough to give us some time on this Tuesday. Usually in the first hour, bumped him back a little bit because Jay Johnson had to speak with the media before the Tigers hit the road for Hoover tomorrow. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how are you?
Doing well, Hunt. Just wrapped up with Coach Johnson and Jared Jones and Kate Anderson. So gave us some good stuff as they leave for Hoover here in the next couple of days.
You got the headliners today. That's some pretty big stuff there. Jay Johnson, I saw the one tweet a quote that was tweeted out the most often was saying that he felt that they were already in a top 8 national seed, had earned that. Your feelings on it?
Yeah, I'm kind of in that camp too. I think that, if you'd lost 2 out of 3 to South Carolina, it certainly opens the door for a lot more possibilities. But I thought winning those last 2 on Friday, Saturday was really important. And look, you're looking at a team right now, I think is 7 or 8, 9 in the RPI, somewhere in that range. But pretty consensus number 1 team across multiple different platforms. And look, I know you take those things with a grain of salt, but I have a hard time imagining all those guys who follow national baseball, college baseball throughout the entirety of the season would be that off base as we go here in the conference tournaments. So are there some extremes here where they could play out? They could make things a little murky, sure, but I think that they feel pretty confident they're going to be one of the 8 national seeds that gets to have a chance to have the road to Omaha go through Baton Rouge.
I guess let's stick with that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the series in South Carolina, but let's stick right there for this point of this discussion. How do you expect Jay Johnson to approach this then, if that's the case, where you could play 9 innings and go home?
Yeah, I think that they're going to approach this thing like they're going to try to win in Hoover, win a game or 2, whatever it may be. But I think from a pitching perspective, what you're not going to see is them overextending Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson. Jay didn't come out and directly say that today, but he did harken back on something that he did back in 2023 in Hoover where, Paul Skeens was on the mound in Hoover, bases were loaded, but he had just thrown 31 pitches in the inning, and Jay got him out of there. And I think that that gives you a little bit of a hindsight into what could come into play this weekend in Hoover. I think that, whether it's Anderson or Ianson, that's pitching this weekend in a first or second game, they're going to not overextend those 2 guys. They understand how valuable it is to have them well rested for the postseason and regionals and super regionals and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we have a shortened outing from Kate Anderson on a Friday game, and then you just kind of make it a bullpen deal where you get guys like Jaden Newt or Chase Shores or Cooper Williams, Maverick Rizzi, some of these guys that have been pitching for you here as of late. In big SEC moments, have a crack at getting you out of the game and winning a game in the later innings, because I do think those are valuable reps for those guys as you look ahead to what LSU is going to be facing here in the postseason. Getting those guys some valuable outs in a tournament like that, I think is almost as valuable as getting guys like Anderson and Ianson their typical reps.
Would you, this is an unanswerable question because Jay's not going to tell you this, and I want to preface that to our audience. Jay's not going to give you pitching plans a week out, but do you think it'd be a problem if Anthony Ianson didn't pitch this weekend? If you went out there and you threw Kate Anderson 70 pitches and you lost the game 4-2 and Ianson never pitched?
Yeah, it's a tough line to cross here, because the counter to that is if you feel like you're in a spot where you might not win a game and you want to get Ianson in the game, for example, you're throwing him a day earlier than what he's normally been used to. So, I don't think it's the end of the world if a guy like Ianson doesn't pitch. I think that just means you go home and you get him a bullpen, or you get him just some extra valuable reps over the course of the week plus before facing that regional team. But I think that they're going to put these 2 guys' safety and certainly their pitch load and pitch count at a premium this weekend. I think that's going to be the number one thing, is to get out of Hoover with those 2 guys ready to rock and roll, whether that means that it's just Anderson that pitches or both Anderson and Ianson are able to give it a go this weekend.
How would you compare those 2 guys at this point in the calendar to how you felt about Luke Holman and Gage Jump last year?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's another thing that Jay kind of, I won't say patted himself on the back for, but like they've done a really nice job of finding some starting pitching here over the last couple of years. Whether you go back to 2 years ago with Skeens Floyd, last year with Holman Jump, this year with obviously with Anderson and Ianson. I think that the way that Anderson and Ianson are operating at this point in the season is just about as good as I've seen since I've been at LSU, and that's just really encouraging. And I've been covering the team since 2017 when it was Lang Poche, and those guys were pretty remarkable too. So I think that these guys are in a group kind of their own in terms of just how dominant and consistent that they've been. So I think they've probably pitched a little bit better, especially when you look at the course of the entirety of SEC play. I think their numbers are probably a little bit better than even Holman and Jumps were last year, and we thought those guys were remarkable towards the end of last season as well. So it's a really good spot to be in if you're LSU.
You spoke with Jared Jones. He seemed to be seeing the ball pretty well in Columbia, South Carolina. Was it nice for him to kind of bust out on a weekend?
Absolutely, and I think it's really important for a lot of those guys, and this is one of the questions I had for him and for Jay, just those everyday players, Jared Jones, Stephen Milam, Daniel Dickinson, Chris Stanfield, Luis Hernandez behind the plate. It was really important, I think, for those guys to come back this week and get a good recovery weekend. They've done some light work so far to this point in the week, but nothing really heavy, nothing really serious, and then they'll kind of ramp things up tomorrow and certainly when they get to Hoover. But I think it's really important to have those guys fresh when you kind of go here into this stretch run. But I kind of asked this to Jared just because it looked like even when LSU was getting outs in this last series against South Carolina, they were really crushing the ball. I mean, they were hitting it pretty hard, line drives, ground ball outs, deep fly balls, things of that nature. But I thought it was probably the most consistent they've swung the bat in a couple weeks now. And so Jared was just telling us, like, Jay Johnson has told them that all you got to do is be a little bit better, and when they were going through their struggles. And I think that we're starting to see the offense kind of get back to a little bit of a form here that they were in at the very beginning of SEC play and certainly in non-conference play when they were very consistent in getting runners on base, scoring runs every inning, every other inning kind of thing. And I think you'll see that. You'll hopefully get a chance to see that now going forward in postseason play with those guys swinging the bats the way that they are.
I feel like I've got a pretty good read on Jay Johnson at press conferences now. Haven't done it for a little bit. And I can only imagine what his reaction would have been if I had asked about Derek Curiel, quote unquote, struggling. The statistics are there. He's 4 for his last 33 before Saturday's game when he got 3 hits. I know that drives Jay nuts because he's playing great. He's hitting 340 as a freshman, but he was 4 for 33. How important do you think was it for him to get those 3 hits on Saturday? And did that come up today?
Actually, it did not come up. We asked Jared Jones about that a little bit, and he said that it's probably a little bit of just freshmen going through the ups and downs of the season, and I'm sure that's exactly the same answer we would have gotten from Jay had we asked him. But I think it's really important for LSU to get Derek Curiel kind of going here a little bit. It had been a little bit of a struggle for him, but I think, look, they've leaned into him in that leadoff spot for the majority of the season, and that's a spot that Jay Johnson covets to one of the best hitters, if not the best hitter on the team. They understand how important it is for that guy to get on base 3-4 times a game, and that's something that Derek Curiel, up until this recent little slump here, was doing religiously. So I think it was a really important game for him on Saturday to get those 3 hits. I thought it was extremely important for Stephen Milam to get a couple of hits in that game as well. He's somebody that I think could be a huge X factor for this team if he's able to start swinging the bat the way that he was towards the end of last year. So those 2 certainly are going to be big parts of LSU's success, or whether or not they're going home early in postseason.
Last one here for you. Concern level on Zach Cowan.
I would probably put it right in the middle, around a 5. I think he's somebody that they're going to trust implicitly here. And look, I do think that was a question that was asked of Jay today, and he essentially said that he deflected a little bit and said, well, he's still got one of the best ERAs in the country, and from a relief standpoint, it was just all SEC from a reliever, and but the recency thing here with him, and kind of 2 of his last 3 innings and gotten away from him, or I should say outings. He just hasn't executed in those pitches, and that's something that Jay kind of spoke to a little bit today. And He's somebody that's a really hard worker, according to Johnson, and is going to continue to work to get back to that place where he was executing those pitches and certainly that 1-2 punch with that fastball changeup. When it's working and when it's painting those corners, it's really, really hard for hitters to catch on to. So they're still going to use him in high leverage situations, but I would say my concern level is probably right around a 5. And honestly, I think it's been good because one of the things that has allowed LSU to, I think, be in a good spot pitching-wise is you've seen guys like Chase Shores and Jaden Newt and Maverick Rizzi, Cooper Williams, some of these other guys start to pick it up maybe when Zach Cowan has lost it a little bit here for a short period of time. So I think it all evens out, and certainly I think LSU's in a good spot pitching-wise as we go into the postseason.
You headed to Hoover?
I am not heading to Hoover. I will be watching from home, but certainly we'll be covering everything from the grounds and doing the best we can to kind of cover all those games for everybody this weekend. So it should be really fun next couple of days seeing how far this team can go and what they can do to set themselves up for regionals and super regional play.
We'll see you at the box next week.
All right. Thanks, Hunt. Appreciate it.
Glen West, senior writer over at Go 24/7. Team coverage, recruiting coverage is all right there for you at Go 24/7. Glenn, good enough with his time each and every Tuesday. Bump things back a little bit for that press conference, but we appreciate him giving us a little bit of his time. We'll come back with Sharief Ishaq next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Oklahoma still maintains a 3-1 lead as they play in the bottom of the 6th inning there at the Hoover Met. One thing I noticed that I hadn't seen before, I think this is new this year, got a little beer garden thing working beyond the right field wall in Hoover. There used to be just like a bunch of trees. Remember where Blake Dean and a few hit the ball into those trees out beyond the right field wall. It is now got a little beer garden feel to it, which I think is a good addition. You're probably going to have to get some more locals in there because I think you're going to struggle with the non-very regional teams coming to a single elimination baseball tournament. Just hard to get A&M fans to show up for that. Harder to get LSU fans potentially to show up for that. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, Florida fans are still never going to come, and Arkansas does okay. It's pretty far for Arkansas fans to go. Tennessee will do okay. Auburn and Alabama you got to lean on, but got to get some younger blood. Not younger blood, some local blood in there. And if you can create a little bit of a premium feel to the seating, I think that's going to help get some folks in there. Not a great crowd as you would expect for a Wednesday afternoon there at Hoover. Crowd usually picks up in the evening. It's a tough break for Hoover that Alabama played the early game today, and they're going to play the early game again tomorrow. That's a Wednesday. Today, Tuesday and a Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Not ideal time to draw the Alabama crowd in. I haven't looked to see when Auburn is playing. Oh, they're on our side, so yeah, they'll play at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. No, 8 o'clock on Thursday. So that's a long wait for them as well. So I'm fascinated to see what the attendance is going to look like for this tournament and whether or not that has any bearing at all on what they do moving forward, because there are a lot of different reasons why you do the different things that you do. Remember, the SEC tournament used to just have 8 teams, and LSU finished 9th in 2011 and didn't get to go play in the tournament, and then they were the last team that was left out of the field. So they decided to change that, and they invited 12 teams, and then they had to do the single elimination Tuesday, and then back to double elimination Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then back to single elimination on Saturday, and then you added Texas A&M and Missouri in. You had to redo that, and then 2 teams didn't make it. Now you've added 2 teams, and so you don't want to be leaving teams at home that have a potential way to play their way into the tournament. So while I don't necessarily need Missouri and South Carolina there this year, the numbers work out so that they are. I think from a purely baseball perspective, it probably makes the most sense. You don't have to ridiculously overwork arms. Like LSU, if they win this tournament, is going to play 3 games. And they earned that right by being the third seed in the tournament. And if, Kentucky's going to win it, they're going to have to win Tuesday, Wednesday, either Thursday or Friday, Saturday and Sunday. They're going to win 5 games. That makes the most sense. So from a baseball perspective, I get it. But these conference tournaments are a money grab. And there's certainly money in the television aspect of it. There's no question about that. We're going to be locked into it the whole time here. But there's also money to be made on ticket sales. And if you're not going to have fan bases travel, then, well, how much money are you losing? I don't know how much of that is SEC at the gate. I don't know how much of that is Hoover as a town with the hotels and the restaurants and that economy. And there are a lot of moving pieces that are candidly well above my pay grade. But I'm not sure how many LSU fans are going to go to this. LSU doesn't need to win. They don't play until Friday. You could theoretically come back on Saturday. Now, that is the weekend, so maybe only having to take one day off to go see LSU play with the potential they could play 3 games is worth it to you. But I know that there are some folks that are not planning on going that have generally made that an annual trip. Good news is, if you're an LSU fan, it's not like last year where if you definitely wanted to go see LSU play in the regional, they weren't going to be at home. So if you were going to spend some cash on seeing LSU play, maybe you save the Hoover money, spend it on Chapel Hill. The flip side of that is, if you're trying to conserve some funds potentially to go to Omaha, which can get a little pricey, maybe you skip this Hoover trip knowing that it's not all that important and that it could end very, very quickly. There's a lot of variables here. I think for me, since I don't ever go, probably the most important thing is what makes sense from a baseball perspective, and this does make the most sense from a baseball perspective. I mean, I could get on board with having 8 teams and doing it the old way with double elimination and leaving half the league at home, but that's never going to fly with teams 9, 10, 11 in the SEC. I mean, let me look at the conference standings and see who's Alabama was 9. So theoretically, we would have left Alabama at home if it was just an 8-team tournament. And if you leave Alabama at home, they can't play their way to that lock-in host. So that's going to get a pushback. So there's a lot of different things to look at. I think this is probably the way they'll do it for some time. I'm just curious what the attendance impact's going to be. I guess we'll find out come on Sunday when they announce the total attendance for the week. All right, Sharief, Ishaq, WDSU, good enough to give us a little bit of time here on this Tuesday. We'll talk a little Saints with Sharief. Sharief, how are you?
Good, man. Sorry, I was at the UNO baseball practice here, and your phone was ringing. I was doing an interview, so I apologize for that.
It's all good. Before we talk Saints, UNO playing in the Southland Conference Championship Series, I would stand to gather there's a pretty decent chance they end up in Baton Rouge if they win, no?
Yeah, don't let a team get hot at the right time, and they're one of those teams that got hot at the right time. They've already swept HCU at home this year, so I understand postseason play is a little different, but yeah, I think if they win, it looks like they'd get into the Baton Rouge region, and it'd be, be an interesting one, although I think they ruled UNO earlier this year. But look, man, you never know what could happen. They're playing good baseball right now. Bryce Callaway, good player, most saves in the Southland Conference, and he leads the league in 5 categories at the plate. So they got a little solid team that's playing some good baseball in the Dax Norris right now.
Do you think they would rather go to Baton Rouge where it's an easy travel, some parents can go and they've already seen the stadium, or do you think they'd rather go to, pick your spot, Chapel Hill or Austin?
I think they'd prefer the trip to Baton Rouge than going to Austin or Chapel Hill. Because it's closer, people could, like you said, people can come, they're familiar with the area, they're familiar with the stadium, and at least, they might have a fighting chance in winning at least one of those games. Making those long trips and going Oprah, probably not that fun,
There's one year where they sent LSU and Northwestern State to Corvallis. Both of them went to Oregon. So, yeah.
Remember that?
That was 2018. Yeah. That was not LSU's finest day up there in Corvallis. All right, let's talk a little bit of Saints while I've got you here, Sharief. Mickey Loomis speaking earlier this week at the golf tournament. Kellen Moore speaking earlier at the golf tournament. And the answers about Derek Carr are just so puzzling to me. Where Mickey Loomis is like, yeah, we've kind of said everything we need to say about that. Well, what have you said about it? I don't know anything about it. Like, what are the vibes around that?
I think the vibes, it almost feels like they didn't want him to retire. They know that they probably would have had a decent chance to, beat up on let's call it a bad division. I felt like if he were to come back, they would have had at least one more run at making the division title championship happen for them and getting into the playoffs. And you can kind of just read a little bit in between the lines that they're frustrated by him retiring and just leaving them on the hook there without any backup plan. But look, I think it's best for both parties that he goes and just get the ball rolling on fixing this franchise, fixing this salary cap, and just finding the future. Because let's be honest, 7-8 wins, I'd prefer to win 3 or 4 games, get better draft picks, get younger guys, and move forward, because it's just not working with Derek Carr. It truly is not working. If it didn't work the first 2 years, it isn't going to work year 3.
Well, look, in the Ryan Ramczyk situation is very different. I get it, but let's put him on an even pedestal. Ryan Ramczyk, yeah, all-pro player, great player for the Saints, gave him a lot of years, but he could not play at the end, and he had to retire medically. Just his body wouldn't cooperate. And we're getting the sense that Derek Carr's body's not cooperating either. Is there a feeling that that's not really the case, and he just doesn't want to play for the Saints anymore, so he bailed?
Look, that would be me speculating, and I love to speculate. I feel like there's something we're missing. There's something that we're missing. Look, Dave Carr came out on the NFL Network and said that he is happy not playing anymore. His shoulder is bad. He's enjoying the time with his family and playing golf, throwing baseballs. But something isn't adding up to me, Hunt. I continue to tell you this every week, that something isn't adding up. You're just going to give away $30 million? Dude, it just... Look, he might be hurt, but is he season-ending hurt? Probably not. He probably didn't want to be here. Didn't want to be here at all. I think he wanted to be set free, wanted to go to a different team and start over. And that would have been fine if they did that, but it didn't happen that way. And look, now they've cleared the way for one of the other guys to start, and they've put $30 million back into the funds that they need.
OTA's coming up. How do you expect those quarterback reps to be divvied up?
We're not going to see team drills. I think Kellen said yesterday it's just going to be 7-on-7. So I expect to see everyone get a little bit of a run. I think the top 2 guys should probably get more of the run than Jay Kaner will get. So that's going to be the thing to watch out for and see who takes more reps there with at least the ones in 7-on-7. Would it be Tyler or would it be Spencer? But I think they'll probably get the even share of reps there during at least these 3 OTA practices we get to watch.
It's good to see Chris Olave out and about, running around a little bit on the internet. You feel like he's going to be good to go?
Yeah, he's going to be good to go. I just think he needs to take care of his body. Take care of himself. Just, the concussions are serious, man. Those things are brutal. And the way he got hit, the way the Buccaneers game, the Panthers game, those 2 concussions were nasty, especially that second one against Carolina. I think he's good. He just, he's got to find a way to play the game smarter, not harder, and take care of his body so he doesn't get knocked out, so he doesn't have long-term issues. So I think he, just by talking to him at the end of the season, he said he felt like he was feeling even better. And now, looking at him, working out through some of these videos, he looks comfortable, looks good. And then that's all you want. All you want is for him to be healthy and take care of his body and be safe on the field. It's a gladiator sport. You don't want to get knocked out, and you don't want to have long-term health issues.
We saw some reports potentially that Pittsburgh might be knocking on that door. Do you feel like Chris Olave is part of the Saints' future plans?
Yeah, I think so. You can't just trade him. Then you have no one. You have Rashid and Brandon Cooks and then Bub Means, and you have no one. You can't trade a guy who's cheap, who's on a cheap contract. I understand it, the injury history, and you have him on a cheap contract and get at least something back for him. But you can't really not give Tyler or Spencer no weapons out there. It just makes no sense. It's just not fair for Kellen. It's not fair for that offense to just get rid of one of your top offensive weapons.
I would agree with that. We appreciate some time here, Sharief. We'll talk next week. We'll know who LSU is hosting, and perhaps that'll be the Privateers. So we'll talk about it next week.
See you at 8:15 tonight, Hunt.
Sure will. That's Sharief Ishaq, WDSU. I'll be joining him to talk a little baseball this evening after we get the kids to sleep at the Palmer house. So I'll chat with Sharief a little bit later on this evening. All right, close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Commercial property and casualty insurance, also group and employee benefits. You know, benefits are a big deal in terms of recruiting talented people to your organization and obviously retaining them in your organization. If you've got a bit of a fractured relationship or aren't really sure where to turn with the benefits for your group, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you with that. I talk about the commercial property and casualty all the time, but the benefits is another arm of what they can do. And if you like to put it all under one umbrella, get it all at a one-stop shop, Jonathan Carbo and his team right here in Baton Rouge, happy to help you with all of that. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com. It's Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
The 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge Spring Cha-Ching, powered by Citizens Bank and Trust, is back. Register now. Today is the last day at 1045ESPN.com for your chance to win $5,000 in cash. We'll announce the winner tomorrow on Wednesday. It's the Spring Cha-Ching from Citizens Bank and Trust and 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Kentucky's playing with a little bit of fire here.
That's not good for you, Hunt.
Swept in the last... why is that not good for me?
Because you don't like Kentucky.
Oh, well, I mean, they're not doing well. So they lost. They got swept in their last conference weekend. They're losing 3-1 here to Oklahoma.
Oh, I thought you were saying that they were like making a move here.
No. They're 35 in the RPI, which is okay. 8-18 in Q1, okay. Strength of schedule's 8. That's good. And I like their resume more than some of these around them, like Xavier and UTRGV, Cal Poly. I think they're okay, but this is gonna be an uncomfortable week in Lexington if they pack the buses and go home this evening. I think they're gonna get in, but it's gonna be close. So we'll see. Right now it's 3-1 Oklahoma in the bottom of the 6th inning. Sooners have 2 on and 1 out from Hoover. All right, got any take it or leave it back?
Yes,
Sweet.
We do.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, first one here. Hunt has to ask me if we have take it or leave it because his laptop is dead. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. Got a lot of percent left. We don't have to talk about yesterday, but
yeah, yesterday it died.
We have 39% remaining. No big deal.
Okay.
That's gonna make it the next 3 minutes.
So then answer the question of why you didn't just check the take it or leave, check our document.
I don't know where the tab is. I was looking through the Warren Nolan RPI stuff.
Of course you were. All right, first one here. LSU receiver Jelani Watkins named to the All-SEC second team for track and field. Watkins will have a role on this year's football team. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that one.
Leave it alone.
That's a kick returner role. They got Barry and Brown. They've got Chris Hilton, and they've got Xavier Thomas, plus Aaron Anderson. So I just don't. He's really fast, but they got fast guys too that are a little better running the football. So I think Jelani's future is in track. Thrilled he had a great spring on the track, but I think his production in football is either not going to come or is a year away.
All right, next one here. Former Arkansas guard Boogie Fland is transferring to Florida. If you can't beat them, join them. Take it or leave it.
I guess I'll take it in that instance. I'll take it. National champs. Somebody put a stat up that he's like really good at shooting off the bounce, and Todd Golden had 2 guards last year that were great at shooting off the bounce, and there's probably a 5th there. It was a weird deal where he got hurt, and people didn't think he was super hurt, and then he missed a lot of time, and then he came back right before the tournament and played in the tournament games, and they made the Sweet 16. And he's a huge recruit and a guy that a lot of people thought was going to go into the draft this year, but there may be some significant cash outside the draft, especially the way Florida's fan base and ownership is probably fired up to help Todd Golden now. So cash is cash.
All right, last one here. A vote on whether to allow NFL players to participate in flag football at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, which of course will be the first time that they will have flag football in the Olympics. The vote is expected to pass at Tuesday's league meeting in Minneapolis, according to Adam Schefter. NFL players and the Olympics. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave flag football out of the Olympics. Let's leave that to the 9-year-olds. I think that'll be just fine. I don't need 22-year-old dudes out there playing flag football in the Olympics. Like, flag football is like really a chance-driven thing. Like, the flags are hard to pull. Like, I played intramurals, I guess, but not very well, and certainly not at an Olympic level. I don't need T. Higgins and Kyler Murray out there playing flag football. You don't want to see. That's not part of my Olympic viewing.
You don't want to see Joe Burrow throwing some 50-yard passes to Jamar Chase against Greece.
I really don't.
No.
And I got a feeling that would not go very well for the Greeks.
Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not ideal. Unless you got Giannis back there playing free safety.
Yeah, maybe.
And going jump balls.
I'm going to go on a limb here and say this will be the only time we see flag football at the Olympics.
Yeah,
I can't imagine this is going to be really much to see. And then, of course, if NFL players do actually, I'm sure there will be some that decide to actually do it because, it gets to represent your country, but you are doing it in a sport that's never been in the Olympics, and it probably won't again, and you have the potential of getting injured. So
we just don't need that.
No,
I'll stick to my swimming, my volleyball. I'd rather handball. I'd rather do that for the Olympics than watch flag football. So no thanks. All right, that's it for a Tuesday edition. You missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. I'm going to go watch a little bit of baseball and get a story up on LouisianaSports.net about baseball. And Matt's going to drive you home, so you can hang out with him until 6 o'clock. We're back tomorrow. Same time, same place. It'll be a Wednesday edition. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.